The jury telling the judge, quote, "We are deadlocked and we do not believe that will change." Still, clearly the jury coming to a conclusion on 4 out of those 6 claims, and it is very different than what we saw just a half hour ago because of that tear gas. On the heels of last week's severe winter storm, officials say we should all be ready for round 2. Governor Northam says he spoke with Virginia's superintendents this morning and directed them to do this. It's really rare when you don't see a sign like this one outside of businesses these days. Standing in about a foot of water, and frustrated Henrico bus drivers say they've had enough. Well, it's this stuff that's already causing a mess on the roads. Well, Deanna, it is a sight to see. They've got fried Oreos, they've got the rodeos, and my favorite, the rides. These criminal complaints here detail a grim situation. Volunteers from Virginia have already landed along the Gulf Coast, and several others are on the way to help out. Right on this street, you can see just steps away from Richmond's 1st Police Precinct here. Good morning. Today is Sunday, October 10th. Thank you so much for joining us for Good Morning Richmond Weekend Edition. This tight race now in its final hours, and we will be here with Glenn Youngkin just watching as those results are coming in. It's hard to tell exactly what this year will look like. We know no streets will be closed off, but based on what we've gathered today, it will still be going on. You can see we still got an incredibly active situation. We're zooming in now on the boat that this man fell off of. It's really more like a block party. As you can hear, we've got a DJ going right now. Hot dog stand on my right. Jeb Stuart's statue today lifted from its pedestal after more than 110 years in place.
I think we're at a crisis in this country, but a crisis can really lead to systemic change.
As the statue of Stuart is packed away, RPS music teacher Beth Almore plays.
The cello gives me a platform.
A moment she dedicates to her great-great-grandmother, Rachel Robinson Burns, once a slave. Stuart's removal comes after weeks of unrest.
If it takes this much effort to get a statue removed, what is it going to take to get systemic racism dismantled in this country?
Almore says there's a common misconception she wants to eliminate.
That racism only affects people who break the law and people who aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing anyway. I have 2 Ivy League degrees. I'm a middle-class person. I come from a middle-class background, from an intact African-American family that went to church every Sunday. I play classical, Western classical instruments, and I am still impacted by racism.
Homeless organizations tell me within the last decade at least, you could never really just walk into a shelter and get a bed right away. There's always been a process, but that process is getting longer and longer for local families. One woman, Angela Thrower, says these past 2 weeks have been the most challenging in her life so far.
I want to provide a home for my kids. That's all it is that I want. I just want one chance.
From a cramped car just to cool off.
Mentally, like, I really need a break.
And back into the heat.
We've been sleeping in our car for going on 2 weeks now.
That's the routine for Angela Thrower and her young children. Thrower was convicted of embezzlement about 7 years ago.
I did my time. You live and you learn. Yes, I was young and I was stupid and made a very stupid mistake, but I feel like my kids shouldn't have to suffer because of a mistake it is that I made.
Most of the time, looking for places to live since then.
Denial, denial, denial.
Dead end after dead end.
Every community line, resource line that you could think of, and I'm still back at square one.
She's on a few wait lists for open beds, but movement on those wait lists has slowed down during the pandemic, according to Homeward, who tracks the data for Richmond and 7 surrounding counties. They say people already in shelters are staying longer because available affordable housing is so slim. Fewer people out means fewer new people can come in.
I'm trying to stay strong. I promise you I am, but so much weight on my shoulders, and I don't want to sit there and throw in the towel, but I really feel like that's what it's going to end up coming to.
Calling mental health crisis lines is also part of the new routine. Comparing pre-pandemic times to the heat of COVID, 50% more people in our area are homeless, according to Homeward. Local shelters tell me applicants are prioritized based on how vulnerable they are.
I shouldn't have to be sitting here crying, stressing, and figuring things out when there's a whole resource line, but you're telling me I'm not a priority. What makes me a priority?
Pretty sure I'm still in shock.
No word yet on what caused the tragedy.
Not really sure, but whatever had happened, it went really fast.
But Jones's family isn't wasting any time.
This barn needs to be rebuilt. It's one of the nicest, best barns, was one of the nicest, best barns on the farm.
Today, her husband's out getting lumber as others clean up on the farm.
Washing everything, digging the posts out, and trying to rebuild.
Jones says the barn, built just a few years ago, was about $30,000. Because of supply chain issues and lumber price increases, the family is expecting it to cost more this time around.
Thank you to the community for continuing to show us all the love and support and stand behind us as it seems that we are continually taking hit after hit, and keep us in your prayers.